What's going on, everybody? It is that time again. The Sooners Illustrated podcast, episode 195.
195.
On this Monday, July 28th, 2025. Josh Callaway, James D. Jackson, Tom Green with you. 33 days until kickoff. Season opener is approaching. We're about to shift into August. Fall camp starts this week. Feels great. Thursday, the first practice of the year. Media day for Oklahoma on Wednesday. Brent Venables, Ben Arbuckle, a ton of players. We've got a lot of fall camp stuff coming your way this week, and we will set the stage today. We're going to kind of get into it. Fall camp storylines. What are we watching for? What do we want to learn over the next month? We'll get into that today on the program. We'll also continue our position preview series. Wide receivers and tight ends today, both positions that got basically totally overhauled. So a lot to kind of sift through there as we continue to move closer to the start of the season. Reminder, subscribe, Oklahoma247sports.com, Sooners Pod 60% off a VIP membership for a year with that promo code. If you're listening on podcast, not watching on YouTube, Sooners Pod 60, all one word, capital S, capital P, gets you 60% off. Fall camp had to start. Recruiting's still going. It's the perfect time as we are getting ready to get into the meat of this thing as fall camp starts this week. The season opener just a shade over a month away. Feels good. Guys, it's kind of crazy. I mean, I feel like we do it all summer of like this benchmark, media days, whatever. It's fall camp, though. I mean, like we're here. Fall camp, for all intents and purposes, is the start of the season in a lot of ways. Obviously, they're not playing games yet, but they're going to be on the field in pads, in helmets. It's exciting, and I'm just like you guys and everyone, just ready to get eyes on this team and get this thing going.
Yeah. Excited to get back out there. Well, yeah. Not excited to be out in the sun all the time because it's
warm,
brutal outside, but excited that it means that football is back. We're inside of 5 weeks until the season opener. I'm going to get our first look at the team in these coming weeks here. So yeah, should be fun.
Yeah, just excited to confirm or deny some of the things that have been said over talking season. I mean, who's actually standing out? Who's actually playing really well? Can't wait to get out there and see that. I mean, it's going to be hot, but I was out there the last couple of weekends playing flag football.
Yeah.
And I think I'm getting a little bit used to it. So hopefully that helps me out in my career.
I'll say the same thing playing tennis last month or so. I've made that joke. Like I'm ready for fall camp. But you can't, the rugby field heat, hard to match out there. It goes up another 10 degrees out there, but excited to get to this, get to the start of things, actually get to see some of these guys for the first time, and certainly the new guys like Jaydn Ott, and we'll get to talk to Jaydn along with a plethora of players on Wednesday. That is media day. 10:15 start with Ben Arbuckle, which is a nice little, not a given that we get to talk to Ben, and we will on Wednesday. Brent Venables will also talk to the media, and that'll all be available on the YouTube channel after it wraps up. Of course, certainly a lot of content over on the website as well. If you're a VIP member, to keep up with the thread of the press conference, James and Tom do a good job kind of updating it in real time. Another reason to subscribe, Sooners Pod 60, put it back up. Get ready because we're getting into it. The fall camp obviously starting this week. Today, before position preview, real quick, just a housekeeping thing. Maxwell Award this morning. John Mateer, Jaydn Ott, both on the preseason watch list for the Maxwell Award. I'm sure most college football fans know what that is, but it's given to the most outstanding player. It's kind of like a player of the year sort of award. The Heisman Trophy winner wins it a lot of the time. Not all the time, but a lot of the time. So there you go. Oklahoma, they're big, shiny toys of the offseason, the quarterback and running back, both on the Maxwell watch list. So kind of a cool little thing there. Just continues the hype for both these guys, right? You're getting, that's another one of those benchmarks of getting close to the start of football is when the watch lists start rolling through. But any thoughts there? I mean, it just, kind of a little more of a reaffirmation of how these guys are looked at nationally, right? That they're going to be considered among the best players in the sport going into the start of the year.
Yeah, definitely. There's, high expectations for both of them. And again, they put a lot of people on these watch lists before the season.
They do.
Certainly, it'll get trimmed down as we get closer to the end of the year. And if they're still on it, then that's when it really matters. But still, it's a nice little nod to be like, these guys can be difference makers for Oklahoma.
Yeah, it's like we've been saying, Josh, the national guys and are recognizing that Oklahoma has some talent they brought in. So it's like, as Tom just said, they just got to keep it up now. Got to actually prove it. And that's kind of what we want to see when we get to fall camp. It's like, I mean, how good are these guys really in the pads and on the field? Let's, get a look at them. So that's going to be the fun part about it.
Right. Ashton Genty won it last year. Michael Penix before that. And then Caleb Williams won it in 22 when he won the Heisman. Baker Mayfield also won it for Oklahoma in 2017 when he won the Heisman. So it gives you a little idea of the level of player that usually wins this thing. Again, it's just a watch list, but kind of a fun little note there. And again, just one of those kind of signs like, oh, we're getting close when you start rolling in the watch lists every single day. And Mateer and Ott getting put on that big one this morning. So without further ado, let's get into our position preview. We'll do that, and then we'll kind of preview fall camp. Most people know the drill. Position preview, we go through the position, the names to know, our questions we have, and we finish it with a confidence rating at how we feel about this group. We did quarterbacks and running backs last week. Those videos are on the site. Also, of course, the podcast isn't going anywhere. It's on the YouTube channel as well as the podcast feed if you want to catch up if you missed it. We're going to do wide receivers and tight ends today. Let's start with wideouts. Guys, this was a position that was just decimated to the most extreme degree by injuries last year. We went into the year talking about how loaded it was, and it was. I mean, I don't take any of that back. It was loaded on paper. Jaleel Farouk, Angelo Anthony, Deion Burks comes in from Purdue, obviously Jaden Gibson, and, I'm missing one.
Nick Anderson.
How do I forget Nick Anderson? Like, it was an insane group on paper, and we never saw it. Pretty much everyone was hurt the whole year. Burks played the most, and he played 5 games, I think it was. Farouk broke his foot in the opener, came back later in the year, played sparingly. Nick Anderson played barely. Jaden Gibson didn't play at all. Angelo Anthony played in the opener, never saw him again. And it's a major what could have been. That photo of all 5 guys being hurt in street clothes during the Alabama game has circulated a lot because it's like a perfect image of like, we just never got to see how good that wide receiver room could have been. And so it's basically a total overhaul. Deion Burks is back. That's about it. I mean, Jaden Gibson is still around. We don't know what to expect from him, obviously, after that, big-time knee injury, and then he had a setback in the spring. The list of guys they added is long. I'm not going to hit them all, but Giovanni Gibson, certainly the big one. Everyone's expecting a lot from him. Isaiah Satania, Keontae Lewis, Josiah Martin, like the list goes on. The guys they signed, Elijah Thomas getting a lot of hype. And then you have the year 2 guys that played some last year, your Zion Kearneys, your Zion Ryans, driving carry-ons. This position, guys, it kind of is a microcosm of the offense as a whole. Like, it can't be much worse. It was so beat up last year. Where are you guys at with this wide receiver room, and what's the ceiling? Because I think there's a ton of names here, but how many of them are going to hit and actually be big-time players for Oklahoma? That's obviously the question.
Yeah, it's crazy to think about when you list out all the names. They had 6 guys transfer out. They brought in 5 transfers, signed 2 more freshmen, but they're still bringing back like 6 or 7 guys who were on the team last year. 5 of them contributing in some sort of manner between Deion Burks and the freshmen you listed. And I think that there's a really good level of talent in this room. It's just that there's questions about who's going to be the guy. And in the spring, we thought, that might be Giovanni Gibson before he broke his leg in that kind of freak incident. I think Jim Nagy was saying the other day on Dari Noka's show that, Deion Burks just kind of like whipped him while blocking, and it was just kind of a freak thing and wound up breaking his leg. But I'm intrigued by a handful of these pieces. I think Deion Burks, if he can stay healthy, like, he can be your number 1 guy.
Sure.
He's a little bit smaller. He plays in the slot, but he's versatile. We saw what he did at Purdue 2 years ago when he led them in receiving, and we thought that he was going to have that kind of impact last year before he got hurt. And we saw flashes of it early in the year. I think he had that 3-touchdown game early in the season before he got injured. Yeah. But I think he could be really useful. I'm really high on Isaiah Satania. I liked him throughout the spring. I know that Ben Arbuckle and Jim Nagy are both very high on him too. I think the big thing for him is, not just that, he's primarily a slot guy from his time at Arkansas, but he can play outside. He's got some versatility, can be a big play guy. But the most important things, I think, he has SEC experience already. So he's shown that he can do it in this league, and he's reliable. I think that's the thing that both Arbuckle and Nagy were saying is, like, if you need something done right, like you have Isaiah Satania kind of set the example for the rest of the room, and that goes a long way, man. If he can be like a safety valve for John Mateer, that'd be huge. Zion Kearney's another guy that they're really high on right now. He can be a big play guy after he was kind of throwing the fire last season. And then you just wonder how these other transfer additions are going to contribute? When is Giovanni Gibson going to be back? What kind of impact is Jermichael Carter going to have? What are we going to get from Jaydn Gibson? Because when he's healthy, like we saw what he is capable of, and just in terms of being like a big play type of receiver. But I mean, a year away from football is tough with two knee injuries, and that's difficult. So there's obviously some still questions kind of lingering over this room, but I think there's some good pieces. And when you have a quarterback and offensive coordinator tandem like you do in Ben Arbuckle and John Mateer, I think that'll go a long way toward elevating the wide receivers.
And to add to those questions, I mean, where's Avion Carrion going to be at in this rotation? Where's a guy like Jacob Jordan who had, a really good stint for quite some time? I mean, at the end of the season there, where's he going to be at in this mix? I feel like we're back to where Oklahoma's wide receiver room was in 2023, where you just didn't know what was going to happen with that room before, Drake Stoops, Andrew Anthony, and Nick Anderson kind of broke out that season. You didn't really know going into the season what it was. And I think we all had a pretty low score for that wide receiver room before they proved to be what they were. I think we're back in that boat where it's a bunch of guys that have relatively good talent, but we don't know who's gonna shine, who's gonna be the guys to really step forward and take those starting roles in this offense. I mean, Brent Venables talked about it. The offense looks more like it did in 2023, and so it's exciting to think about that when you're looking at this wide receiver room once again.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, it's a position with a high ceiling, but there are basically no known commodities here. I mean, there's like no for sure things in the entire position, because even Deion Burks, who I really like as a player, obviously banged up a lot last year, was kind of banged up a little bit in the spring, even this year. Like, can he be healthy for full season? Like, I don't know, right? I mean, that remains to be seen. If he does, I have, a lot of confidence he'll have a very nice year and be the kind of that go-to target for John Mateer. He'd be my pick to lead the team in receptions, if I had to pick one. But again, can he stay healthy? Giovanni Gibson, how does he bounce back? Jaydn Gibson, I have no idea what to expect from him after, like Tom said, you have the big knee injury and then you have the setback. We didn't even see him literally physically at all in the spring. Like, we all kind of thought, like, is he even around? And obviously he's here. He's ready to go.
Oklahoma posted a photo of him from their photo shoot.
It didn't even look like him. I literally was like, is that him? Like, it's been so long. I kind of forgot what he looked like, I guess. I don't know. But it's I mean, it's a lot of names. And, I'm with you on Satania. Like, I think I like the upside there. But, like, Jermichael Carter, too. Keontez Lewis, the guy that John Mateer's hyped up a lot. Like, there's a lot. I haven't sold my Zion Kearney stock, but, like, I have no clue, like, who's going to step up and be the guys here. I mean, again, you would assume Burks, you would assume Giovanni Gibson if he's good, but other than that, I don't know. And that's not to say I don't think the room can be good, because I definitely think it can. But it's just totally new. It's so many new names and new faces, and even the guys we saw last year. It's like, what do you make of that? Because I mean, I don't know what to make of what we saw from Kearney last year and stuff like that. Like, who knows, right? So it's a very interesting position. I got completely overhauled. I think, last year was tough because the year before we were all talking about how great Emmett Jones was and how he got the most out of Jaydn Gibson and all these guys that he clearly helped improve. Then last year happens. Now it's like the fan base is kind of cooled on Emmett Jones. And it's like, was that really his fault though? And it's like, now this year, can he do it again? Can he get the most out of these guys? Obviously we're going to find out, but it's a laundry list. There's like 10 names here. And there's even names that we didn't even discuss, like KJ Daniels and Zion Raggins. Like, those guys are still here. Like, are they in the mix at all? Like, it's a lot of names. You start going through the names, it's a lot. So I don't know what to say, I guess.
I mean, it's amazing they won, 6 games last year. When you really go back and look at it and you put it in perspective, it's like, man, Oklahoma winning 6 games is incredible for what they had on the field. I mean, it's just like unproven guys having to step into those roles, and you're with an unproven quarterback and offensive line that's beat up, and it's rough. I mean, it was rough. So I mean, shout out to them for doing that. But obviously, you got to get healthy. That was the main thing this offseason, and they got a lot of different guys now, I think, to combat that. If they do get hurt, I think that's why there's so many receivers in this room overall as well. So I think that could help them as well.
No doubt. Should we go ahead and do the confidence rating? We can go ahead and get into that. I have to start, I think, which is not a fun one to start with. It's a hard one because it's not like I'm saying the position is doomed. We have that coming up next, I think. But it's also like I can't in good faith express a ton of confidence here. So I don't know. I'm going to kind of split the difference. It's a little bit of a hedge score, I guess. I'm going to go with a cool 7 on the dot. Not a bad position, just a lot of unproven, like we said. If Burks is healthy all year, Giovanni Gibson is what we thought he could be, and he's obviously healthy after the leg injury in April. You only need like 1 or 2 other guys to be reliable pass catchers for you, and you have like I said before, like 10 dudes you can make an argument for. So I'm going to go with the 7. Fairly confident. I don't think it's going to be an issue. I think it'll definitely be better than last year, which isn't saying a lot, right? But I like the room overall, but there's a lot of guys that have to kind of prove it as far as being, SEC high-end, pass catchers in this league, and obviously the best conference in the sport. So I'm going to go with a 7 for me.
Yeah. I'm not too far off from you. I'm going to go with a 6. And look, I think there's a very high ceiling for this room, especially when you have a quarterback like John Mateer slinging it. But I just think there's some questions that need to be answered in the next month for me to kind of raise my confidence level in this group. And, again, the 6 isn't like that's how talented I think this room is. I think the room has more talent than that.
Sure.
It's where I'm at right now before practice starts. And now we can get out there in the next, 2, 3, 4 weeks before the season starts. And, Giovanni Gibson could be fully cleared and be ready to go week 1, or Jaydn Gibson could be ahead of where we may think he is. And that would change a lot in terms of how we view this.
Sure.
But until those questions are kind of answered, I think it's an above average group going into the season that has the potential to kind of raise its level in the coming weeks as they kind of get settled in with this offense with John Mateer and Ben Arbuckle.
Mm-hmm. I guess I'm the highest on the wide receiver room. I got a 7.5 going into this, just because I know that I just feel like that the offense is going to be a lot better now with Ben Arbuckle and John Mateer running the show, obviously. And I think the guys being more healthy is going to help out in the room as well. Like that helps your mental state. Mm-hmm. It's a positive situation where everybody's feeling good about themselves, and you think that's going to play a part into this. There are proven guys, I think, like Deion Burks, who are in this room, Isaiah Tatanga, who had stints here and there at Arkansas where he was a really, really good receiver for him. Jaydn Gibson, if he's healthy, if he comes back healthy, they have rooms to really grow this room. So I think 7.5 is like the base to go, because I think you could either go really below that if everything doesn't work out, or you can go higher if those 3 guys I feel like shine for them, and they could this season. So that's kind of where I'm at with them. 7.5 is, I think, is the rig.
Yeah, and that's fair. I briefly mentioned him earlier, but probably didn't talk about him enough. Elijah Thomas too. I mean, like he's probably of really. I mean, probably between him and Michael Fasusi for like freshman that's done the most, so far, or made the most impact. The way that these guys talk about Elijah Thomas, I mean, it certainly seems like he's got a real shot to play as a true freshman, right? And he's a guy with a lot of upside, in-state kid, obviously from Shakota. Like, he's one that's like a lot of the guys on here, or arguably all of them. It's unknown. He's a freshman. I mean, who knows what kind of impact he can make right away? But he is certainly one that you want to make sure you don't overlook here, because he's a name that has come up a lot. And the other freshman too, Manny Joyce. I mean, that guy is a grown man as a freshman. Am I expecting him to have a huge role? Probably not. But, it's up for grabs, right? I mean, is anything really solidified here? I mean, the depth chart, if the depth chart came out today, I don't know if there's really anything that could shock me other than Deion Burks not starting, right? I mean, like it's kind of wide open, so there's a lot of guys. And
yeah, I think if you're
earlier, I mean, you can't forget about him. Like that's a lot. It's a lot of names.
Yeah. I think if you were to ask me like right now who I think the 3 starters would be week 1, and this is like assuming like that they're easing Giovanni Gibson back into things.
Sure.
I would probably say Deion Burks in the slot, and then your outside receivers, you probably have Isaiah Satania and
Carter, maybe
Zion Kearney.
Maybe, I don't know.
Either him or Carter or Keontae Lewis. Like I think those are probably your 3 options. Like it wouldn't surprise me if Elijah Thomas just went out there and lit the world on fire over the next month. But I agree. I think he's a guy that's going to earn some snaps early in the season, and kind of see how that transitions as they get into the tougher games in SEC play. But they're really high on him. He's a dude. But But yeah, I mean, just need to answer some questions. But I agree. Like I think the surest thing right now is that Deion Brooks is going to be the starter, or one of the starters. I'd be floored if Isaiah Sategna wasn't one of the other ones at this point. It just really comes down to who that other outside receiver is going to be right now.
Watching Elijah Thomas in high school was how I felt watching Xavier Robinson in high school. Like every time they got the ball, you felt like they had an opportunity to score. And so I think that's kind of like translated over into what these guys are seeing on the practice field as well. I mean, Elijah Thomas is that type of athlete, so it's looking really good for him so far. Even Xavier Robinson didn't start that well in the training camp aspect. They kind of grew on later on in the season, so it's good for Elijah Thomas that he's getting this praise already from the guys.
No doubt, gonna be a fun position to watch. Just completely a remade group, basically. So many new faces, so many transfers. And the freshmen, it's going to be interesting to see how it shakes out and see who stands out at camp over the next month going into the opener, obviously, in 33 days from today. Let's shift over to tight ends. Another position completely remade, even more extremely in some ways. I mean, it's just all new guys, with the exception of Caden Helms, who obviously played sparingly last year, battling back from injury. Bauer Sharp's gone. He's off to LSU. Bauer Sharp, a very polarizing figure a year ago. We talked about before. Did he have some egregious mishaps? Definitely. No doubt. Was he a good blocker? No. He could catch passes. And frankly, OU asked him to do way more than he was capable of doing. Is that his fault? No, obviously not. He's over to LSU now. And they've just revamped the room completely. Jaron Kanak flips over from linebacker to tight end. Who knows what to expect there? They bring in Will Huggins from Pitt State. They bring in Carson Kent from Kennesaw State. And John Locke from Louisiana Tech, who I feel like nobody's talked about hardly at all. Obviously, Caden Helms is back. You still have Cade McIntyre floating around as well. Trey Washington, the freshman, comes in. Guys, this room has been heavily discussed among OU fans. We've joked about it many times. Joe John Finley is not a popular guy among the fan base. I have no clue what to expect from this room at all. And I don't think, frankly, there's reason to expect much. I mean, it's all guys coming from a lower level, and they weren't especially productive in the pass catching at the lower level. So it's hard to expect any of these guys to be an all SEC tight end, right? What are you thinking with this tight end room? Obviously, it's been kind of a sticking point the last couple of years. And on paper, you just wonder, does anyone have the ability to be a true game changer here, a playmaker in this position group? That obviously remains to be seen.
Yeah, I mean, this isn't just, the weak point of the offense. I think it's the weakest position on the roster heading into the season. I don't think anybody would disagree with that. I think they bring back like 4% of their production from last season, and that was all Caden Helms with 2 receptions for like 19 yards and a touchdown. It's tough. They lost their 2 rotational pieces there in Bauer Sharp, who led the team in receiving, and Jake Roberts, who basically played all the snaps at tight end between the two of them. Devon Mitchell's off to Louisville, never even saw him, all that potential out the door. And it's just a completely remade and largely unproven room. Like, nobody has really done anything at the, FBS level, or the Power 4 level, certainly, out of this group. I mean, Will Huggins had 1 catch at his time at Kansas, and it was a touchdown against Oklahoma as a true freshman several years ago. So there's a lot of questions, a lot of guys that need to prove themselves. I think if you go into the season right now, Will Huggins is probably, tight end 1. I think Carson Kent is there as probably the second option. Caden Helms, if he can stay healthy, I think has the highest ceiling of the group. Brent Venables says he sees a real role for Jaron Kanak in that room this year. So what does that look like? But there's just so many questions, no real proven, pass catchers, guys that can be a best friend for John Mateer in that offense. But I also don't think there's an offense that needs the tight end to be, a standout, especially if they can get some of those wide receivers to step up, and especially with a guy like Jaydn Ott coming out of the backfield, being able to catch the way he can. I don't think you need a receiver, tight end that's going to put up 500 yards. You just need, some guys that can be reliable blockers and, catch a few passes here and there, which I think is possible.
Is that why they recruited that way? Do you think that's why they recruited it that way? Like, they got a bunch of guys that, were more like block prototypal tight ends instead of like pass catchers. Is that
not necessarily, because there were a couple portal guys that they went after, if I recall correctly, that were like legit pass catching, like difference makers. But there's just so many questions left unanswered about this room going into fall camp that they need to sort out. And until they prove something on the field in game days, like I don't think anybody's going to have much confidence in what the tight end position specifically is capable of. But I don't think that's enough that's going to sink the offense if the tight end room's not great.
I mean, I don't expect it to be that great. I think this is going to be the lowest score that we've ever had, I think, on the podcast for any team that we've covered. I mean, it's a really difficult room to judge based on what is in the room right now. I mean, Brent Venables saying Jaren Kanak is going to get some playing time at that position is a little odd. I mean, it's his first time doing it, right? So it's a little odd. We know he's an athlete, so he has the abilities, but it's like your first time doing it and playing at this level. It's a little weird. I mean, Josh, did Brent Venables also say that Trene Washington might play other positions at some point in time?
Yeah, that wasn't a great indicator, I thought. And I like Trene. I mean, I've kind of been high on, but Brent brought him up as thinking he had a future at defensive end, playing linebacker. It was like, okay, well, he's a tight end right now, though. Like that's not doesn't seem to be a ringing endorsement of your belief in him as a tight end. Maybe he didn't mean it that way, but.
Yeah, I mean that's kind of like the story of Trene Washington's football career. He first got on as a punter. That's what he was brought on to, like, play for Carl Albert. That's what it was going to be, and he just
I didn't know that.
Grew into that guy and just became an all around athlete for them and just playing everywhere else. So now obviously has an opportunity to play defensive end. It sounds like at some point in time. It's a long.
He's new to
journey.
Tight end. He didn't even really play tight end, right? At Carl.
Yeah. He didn't play tight. No. It was wide receiver. So I mean, it's a different scenario for him. But like you guys are saying, I mean, it's a tough room overall. Caden Helms is the guy that's getting the buzz right now. I mean, we saw Carson Kent look like he did the best in the Crimson Combine situation that we got to see. But not really sure just yet overall on the entire room. Will Huggins comes from a really good D2 program, but how is that going to translate to Oklahoma? So it's one of those rooms that's really, really, in a dire situation, I feel like.
Yeah, I think the thing with Will Huggins is at least like he has like FBS or like power conference talent because he was recruited and signed with Kansas and started his career there, even though he dropped down to kind of get a fresh start at a really good D2 program. But yeah, no, like definitely still like what can he do at this level in the SEC is the big question there.
Yeah, I don't know, man. It's I mean, if one of these guys breaks out and has a nice year, I mean, it's not going to shock me. Obviously nothing shocks me, but it's hard to expect it, obviously. And yeah, it's a room that is extremely unproven. A lot of, like we talked about, a lot of guys coming from lower levels and things like that. So we'll see what happens. Maybe it is just, can you please block for us? I mean, Carson Kent had some good mojo early. Then Ben Arbuckle was kind of pumping Will Huggins in the back end of the spring. And then, to your point, I mean, Caden Helms was getting the hype at media days from Brent Venables. Like, it's kind of been a moving target. I always liked Caden Helms, but he's had a lot of injuries. Like, what does he look like? Can he get out and really move, at the level that he was at one point? I don't know. Find out hopefully soon in fall camp. But it's a room that it's hard to have a ton of confidence in. It just simply put. So on that note, we'll go into the rating. Tom, you get the honor starting here. Again, I think that the numbers are going to have to be low here. I mean, I don't know why anyone could say with extreme confidence that the room is going to be really good, right? I mean, so what do you got, 1 to 10? Where are you landing on it? How low can you go?
2.
2. Oh man, that's even lower.
That's what I said. It's going to be the lowest we've ever had. I feel.
I honestly wasn't sure if you guys might go lower than that.
I wasn't going to go quite that low.
I think that a couple of these guys like can piece together like quality seasons. I think if Caden Helms can stay healthy, and that is a big if based on the track record there, that he can be their number one tight end. If he can stay on the field and kind of be that receiving option at tight end. But I just, again, like, none of these guys have proven anything at this level, and until they do, like, I'm not going to have confidence in that room. We saw them in the spring, just I don't know. I just wasn't impressed. I like some of the things that Will Huggins can do. He's a big body. I think he can be a valuable pass blocker there. We'll see kind of how he factors into the receiving game. Carson Kent, nice pass catcher. I mean, he was second team All Conference USA last year, or honorable mention, one or the other. But again, can he do it in the SEC? And to this point, I mean, Joe John Finley's rooms have not been that great during the last few years at Oklahoma. So I just don't have a reason to be overly confident in this room. And 2 might be low, and I would happily eat my words if they end up being a lot better than that. But just on the eve of fall camp, that's where I'm at with this room.
Sure.
Yeah. Is it me?
Yeah.
I was gonna say 4. I thought that was gonna be the lowest, but 2 is way down there. I'd say 4. I mean, it's just there's, like you guys said, there's no all SEC guys in this room, and this at this point. That we looking at right now, it doesn't seem like that's gonna be the case. And I'm not entirely sure though how they're gonna use the tight end, and that's kind of what I want to see in fall camp. How are they gonna use these guys? Are they actually gonna be really good in executing what they're asked to do? That could change how the position is viewed overall, throughout the season. I mean, is this, blocking certain schemes, finding the open zone right here where you can get the pass? Is that stuff like that going to help Oklahoma's tight end room? I mean, that's kind of where I see it. I mean, just don't know how they're going to use them because the coaching staff is really smart guys. I mean, they see exactly what we're seeing as well. So they're not going to try to make them be those down the field, down the middle, threats that they're just not going to be, I don't think. So I think that's where they're at right now. 4 I thought was the lowest, but I didn't.
You're going to be the highest.
I was going to say, I agree, though. I don't think they're going to be asking them to be asking them to do the same things that Bauer Sharp was being asked to do, which, again, was, over his head. But, yeah. Anyway,
I'll split the difference. I'll go right in the middle of the 3. I give it a slight, half a point bump. For Ben Arbuckle, some faith there in him just being a good offensive coach. And then also Kevin Wilson, the background in coaching tight ends maybe helps a little, right? I mean, just at least a shade, between the 2 of them, I'll give a half, rounded up a half point there. Yeah, I mean, there's no reason to expect any of these guys to have a big year, right? I mean, could it happen? Sure. I mean, anything can happen. And, it's not Will Huggins and Carson Kent, they both have the body types, but is the ability there? I don't know. I mean, Jaron Kanik is an athlete, but he doesn't seem big enough, frankly, to really block at a high level in the SEC. Maybe he is. Maybe you'll prove me wrong. Then Caden Helms, is he just healthy enough? I don't know. It's hard to foresee this position, anyone in this position having really anywhere close to even Bauer Sharp's numbers from last year. Now, I mean, we'll see. Again, I always am hesitant to just be, because you never know. It's so hard to predict this stuff, right. But hard to see it. I'll go with a 3, which, again, it could easily be lower. You could talk me into it. What
was Bauer Sharp? 315 yards, wasn't it?
He led the team. I remember that. I thought it was a little more. Was it more? I thought it was
350.
A touch more. I could be wrong though.
And look, if we were able to accurately predict all of this stuff, we wouldn't be doing what we'd be doing. We'd be very rich.
Spending
our time at the sports books. But
James was about right. 324.
324. Okay.
Yeah, I was thinking he got just a shade over 400. But
how many touchdowns?
Misremembered. He had 2.
Yeah.
2 touchdowns. He had 2 rushes for -8 yards.
Yeah. They let him in receptions.
Do I dare look up the passing stats? Where are the passing stats?
Oh my gosh.
I can't find. They're not on this sheet. I'm not going to They were not good. I remember that. Yeah. So we'll see. It's a big year for Joe John. A lot of people thought he probably isn't going to be back after the year. In fact, it was almost like a given that he wouldn't be back, and obviously he is. Big year for him. He's recruiting well. I like the recruiting class, right? Or mix Tyler Ruxer, but you got to do it in the actual on Saturdays, at some point, right? So we'll see. We'll see what happens. All right, next week we'll do offensive line, then we'll start on defense as well. We'll do D tackle, which is maybe the best position on the team. You can make an argument for. So that'll be some positive vibes next week. O-line will be interesting, though. I mean, a lot of conversation there. You want to talk about names. You could talk me into a lot of guys starting on the offensive line. So we'll do that next Monday as we continue to move closer to the start of the season. Before we go, though, fall camp is this week. I mentioned first practice is on Thursday. Media day is Wednesday. Ben Arbuckle, Brent Venables, 8 Oklahoma players will be there, including Jaydn Ott for the very first time. There's a lot of things, right, that we are going to be excited to see right over the next month. What are the big ones, though? For you guys, what do you want to learn between Thursday, the first practice, and Saturday, August 30th, the opener? Where does your attention go? What are the big questions? Take it however direction you want. There's a lot, but what are the main things that you're looking forward to seeing whenever fall camp gets underway this week?
I mean, for me, it's simple. It's something you just kind of touched on there at the end there, but it's what is this offensive line going to look like?
Yeah, offensive line.
Because it was a very weak unit last year. I think they were like 118th, 119th in pass blocking efficiency. Obviously, the run game was inconsistent. They started 8 different combinations through the first 9 games before they kind of settled on starting 5 late in the year there. Mm-hmm. I think the depth is a lot better. I think the talent in the room is better. But like you said, like there's 7-8 guys that I can talk myself into being starters. And I think right now going into fall camp, I think the only like surefire starter right now is Troy Everett at center. I think Derek Simmons is probably going to be your right tackle.
Heard his name a lot. Yeah.
But those other 3 spots, like you could talk me into Febechi Wiwu or EPL starting at right guard. You can talk me into Jacob Sexton or Heath Ozaida or EPL at left guard. You can talk me into Jacob Sexton or Logan Allen or Michael Fasusi at left tackle. Like I'm curious to see how that shakes out because I like the pieces in the room. I think they're going to be much better than they were last year. Again, it's a low bar to clear to get there, but it's just a matter they need to settle on a starting line as quickly as they can. Because they don't have that kind of runway that they had last season before the start of SEC. But you have Michigan in week 2, and Michigan's got a very good defensive front. Mm-hmm. You need to get that offensive line sorted out. So to me, that's the big storyline heading into fall camp is what will this offensive line look like, and how quickly will they kind of get that sorted out?
Mm-hmm. I mean, that's exactly where I am. I mean, that's kind of the piece I wrote just last week. That offensive line is how quick can they get a starting 5? I mean, but to add something different. It's the wide receiver room, like we're just talking about. I mean, who's going to step up for that room? I want to see how those guys are moving out there. I mean, who's looking the best when they're moving around, when they're going through their routes, doing all that practice stuff that we're going to get to see. Who's looking the best there? So that's kind of what I want to be watching for, along with that the starting 5 of that offensive line, how that all unfolds. Kind of really what I want to look at. I know some people may be like, why are you not looking at John Mateer and all of that? We saw a lot of what they're going to bring in the spring with John Mateer and Ben Arbuckle. I feel like we're off at a comfortable point in time and seeing what that room's going to look like. So it's just trying to see what those rooms that are pretty lacking, see what they got going here. So
no doubt there are many offensive storylines. Right? I mean, that's been the talk of the offseason. Can they get back from just what was historically one of the worst offenses Oklahoma's ever fielded last year, right? So there's many. I will go defense to flip it over. There's a few here. Defensive end 2. Who is it? Like that's really probably the one defensive starter spot that is, kind of hard to decide. I mean, R. Mason's clearly the other one, but Marvin Jones, Taylor Wine is got so much hype going around him lately, and he's going to be at the media day on Wednesday. They're sending 8 OU players, including Taylor Wine. Do you read into that? I don't know. I mean, it's notable, right? So we're going to talk to him on Wednesday. Could he be that guy? I know a lot of OU fans will like PJ Adebore to be that guy. I mentioned Marvin Jones, Danny Okoye here too. Yeah. A lot of excitement there. Very fascinated by that defensive end 2 battle. And it's going to rotate around and stuff. But, R. Mason needs a running mate. Who's it going to be? That's a big question for me. And then also in the defense, the cornerbacks just – I think we all are in on Gentry and Eli Bowen, but then after that, are those young guys going to come forward? There's a lot. Devon Jordan, Jeremiah Newcomb, Malik Hawkins, Cortland Guillory, Brent Venables loves. Does Kendall Dolby play corner if they need him to? The cornerback room probably on the defense is the biggest question mark. I think we've talked about that before, and we're going to get there when we do the preview. But So yeah, there's a lot of questions. I've been on record many times. I think the defense has every chance to be just as good, if not better, than it was. But that doesn't mean there's not question marks. There are still question marks because you need some guys to step up, and you have the guys to do it. But who's going to do it? Right is a question. But if you're going to like a position battle, defensive end too is as interesting as any for me. Very very intrigued there. So there you have it. Anything else? If it's individual player that
because like Kendall Doby or Kendall Daniels, like who's gonna go for that cheetah spot?
I think Reggie Powers,
or is it Samuel Masigo? Reggie Powers? Yeah, like who's gonna fill that role? I mean, I feel like that could be a question mark. Yeah, at this point in time too. So I mean, the defense, like you feel more comfortable about the defense because they're eight of the 11 starters are coming back for this room this season. So like that helps out with that experience that you're gonna have there. And so you're just kind of filling out like you mentioned, the second units, the secondary pieces there to to add more depth to each room. So I think that's where it's at on the defensive side.
I think it's 7 of 11 because you're losing Billy, Danny, Ethan, and
Deshaun Terry.
Dejon didn't really start.
He didn't start because I was thinking about Trace, but he didn't. Did he start Trace?
No. But you're losing a starting corner opposite of Eli because it was either Woody or
Woody.
So, you're bringing back 7 starters and other guys who started a handful of games here and there. Like Grayson Holden wasn't a starter last year. Like Jaden Jackson started most of the games, but Grayson still led the defensive tackles and snaps.
Right.
And again, like Peyton Bowen, he's a guy that when he's healthy, can play starter level snaps. Like we saw that, when he was a true freshman, and obviously, took a step back last year with all that. Cody McKenzie, not a starter, but again, they had a core 3 at linebacker. So, even though you're losing some starters, you still have good experience at those positions you're filling in. So,
yep.
Also, I mean, not for nothing, can they get through the camp without injuries, notable injuries? Can they get to the opener? You're going to have injuries. It's football, but can they get to the opener without feeling like what happened to position group X? Because that I mean, the injuries we talked about last year, it was like that going into the opener. I mean, you guys know. I mean, the offensive line was in shambles before the opener. Like, can we avoid that this time around? And then, want to make sure you always want to not overlook the importance of special teams. New kicker, new punter. Are they feeling good about that going into the opener? Because remember, the kicking game was putrid in the spring, frankly, in the Crimson Combine. You don't want to look too much into that. They added a kicker since then, Tate Sendell from UTSA. What's kind of that? Is there a confidence there in the kicking and punting game? Because as Brent Venables knows, that can lose you games. In Oklahoma's losses under Brent, the close games, obviously in particular, they've missed a kick in most of them. Like it's a common thread. So another little, it's not going to grab the headlines of quarterback or some of these other things we just talked about, but can't overlook it. Special teams this month because again, you're placing your kicker and your punter. So
yeah, I mean Brent did compare him to like a NFL All-Pro, so I think he has confidence going into him before his first practice. But like kind of on the special teams front, it's like who are going to be your return guys?
Yeah.
Kanga's got to get something.
There's intriguing options because like Jaydn Ott is can be explosive in there. Like he has a touchdown return from the 2023 season, but it's like, do you want your featured back? Like I know people have PTSD from the DeMarco thing in 2008, but like, is an Isaiah Satania going to be your punt return guy because he can do some things there too, and you got some freshmen that are capable of contributing there. Taylor Tatum had some opportunities on kickoff returns, so I know people have questioned about his ball security. Like, do you want to risk that on a kickoff return too? So I'm curious to see who the candidates are and kind of how that shakes out on the special teams front.
Folks, Tom has had no reason to know anything about the DeMarco Murray situation in 2008. So this is showing you the type of research that's being done at Sports Illustrated.
I was at Florida.
There you go.
Oh, well, there you go. Well, I try to give you props, and you
James' memory hole that Tom's a Florida guy. I'm excited. I'm excited to get him out there. We don't know what we're going to get in terms of practice availability, like viewing for us. We'd imagine soon. I mean, usually they get us in there early in the year. Early in the fall camp, I should say. So be on the lookout. We'll obviously let you know. We'll have content all over the site and on the YouTube channel whenever we get there, whenever that does happen. Hopefully, maybe Thursday, maybe the first practice. I don't know. We don't know anything yet. We'll see. But media day is Wednesday. Arbuckle, Venables, a bunch of players, like I said. That starts at 10:15. coverage on the site, YouTube channel, dial in. Pretty much, really. I mean, not pretty much. I mean, starting this week until the season is over. I mean, we're going to have player interviews, press conferences, practices, games, something once or twice a week until December. I mean, at this point, so it's that time. So we're getting ready to shift into August, and football is here. Feels good. Feels very good. A reminder again, one more time on the way out: Sooners Pod 60. Subscribe, 60% off a yearly membership to Sooners Illustrated, a year-long membership. Great time of year, fall camp. I mean, this is it right here. We're about to get the thing rolling really on Wednesday. So we're excited, and could be a fun season. Our third here at Sooners Illustrated. We're fired up about it. It's going to be fun. That's it for now. I think maybe back later this week, Colin's on vacation. There was some talk about maybe a Blake and Koviak sliding in. We're going to figure that out. But again, Media Day is on Wednesday. So a lot of content both there on the site as well as here on the YouTube channel on Wednesday coming out of Media Day. So be sure to dial into all of that. At the very least, obviously, the three of us will be back next Monday. Going to do O-line and defensive tackles, like I said, and we'll be able to sift through the early stages of fall camp coming out of the Media Day and first couple of practices, things like that. So we'll have certainly a lot to talk about next Monday as we flip the calendar into August and we get into the meat of fall camp and leading up to the season, which is now less than 5 weeks away. That's it for now. For Tom Green, James D. Jackson, I'm Josh Callaway. We'll see you next time right back here, as always, on Sooners Illustrated.
See you.